Yeah. Okay, so we should be recording. Guys, so we're going to talk about coaching this morning. And most of you are probably coaches already, whether you know it or you don't know it. And just being part of this environment sort of actually makes you a coach to some extent. So why coaching? And let's have a look at that. And how can you be a coach and how can you be coached and so on. So the first thing really to cover is that the coaching is your fast track to success. In fact, I mean, if you think about it, you know, we often think with business coaching, we think we've got to go and find a coach and we've got to find the right person and, you know, how much they're going to cost and all the rest of it. But it's a bit stupid. If you go training, Gary, I know you used to do a lot of boxing and CrossFit and things like that. There's always a coach. You know, you have a coach. All professional sports people have coaches. If you're a musician, you have maybe a voice trainer or something like that. You know, if you're a public speaker, you have that. So coaching is actually really the fast track. And in many areas of life, we wouldn't even think about actually doing something without a coach, right? It would be like, well, that's crazy. How are you going to compete? So the key thing with a coach, and the reason for having a coach and why we need coaches, and this is in actually all areas of life, is because they help you reach your full potential, maximize your full potential faster, quicker than you could have done it on yourself. And in fact, if you don't have a coach, probably you're not going to reach your full potential, because you need somebody to be able to push you and drive you and tell you where you're going right or you're going wrong. And also, this is not something we ever grow out of, because wherever we go, there's somebody who's done something bigger or better, and they can take us that step further because they know how to do that. So I know Peter Cox always used to say these things, and he always challenges us, and he always goes, who's leading you? Because it doesn't matter how big you are, who is leading you? And if you haven't got somebody leading you, then you probably aren't maximizing your full potential. You probably aren't getting to where you could get to. It's quite a challenge, particularly as you sort of move on and you get older in life, and, you know, and finding these people and so on. So let's just have a quick look at it as to what it is, what it isn't, and so on. So one of the things, by the way, a coach is not always necessarily somebody who is older than you, right? My daughter-in-law at the moment is coaching my mother-in-law on how to use her phone, right? That makes sense, right? Because, you know, so you might have somebody, there might be somebody younger, they're just going to be better than you in some area, or they're going to be able to assist you to get to the next level in whatever you're doing, right? So they have insight. So let's just see what it isn't. So it's not counseling. Coaching is not counseling. Counseling typically is somebody who's there to help you identify something in your past so you can manage the present. Right? A counselor will typically be there to help you resolve a problem, and typically an emotional problem or an issue or a circumstance, so that you can operate in the present. And they typically look at the past. Okay. A coach is more somebody who looks at the present and goes, this is how you can do better in the future. Right. So a coach is typically forward thinking as opposed to trying to resolve an issue of the past. They're also not a consultant. Consultants typically come in to solve a problem. And they will typically come in and they will typically tell you what to do. They will identify it. They'll say, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And then they get out again. And they typically focus on that. And it's normally very, very short term. You'll get them to come in, fix something, and then move on. And then it's also not mentoring. Although the type of coaching I'm going to talk about today is a sort of a blend of mentoring and coaching. But mentoring typically is, in its purest form, is connecting with somebody who has been there and done that in what you're trying to do and can give you reflection on it. And you typically meet your mentor once every 2 months or something like that. And you chat about things and they give you advice. There was a good example. I'm trying to think of the guy's name now. He was a British tennis player. You guys know, and he got into the Wimbledon finals. And no one thought he would. You know, Scottish guy, I think. Anyway, now a couple of years ago, and he had his coach with him all the way through. But as he got into the I'm not sure it was the quarters or the semis, all of a sudden I think it was John McEnroe was on his team. Now, McEnroe wasn't there to coach him because he had his coach. McEnroe was there to teach him or to mentor him, if you like, on how to handle the pressure of being in the semi-final, how to handle the pressure of being in the finals, because he'd been there many times. So that was sort of more of a mentoring role as opposed to a coaching role. Okay, so if you can find somebody who's a blend of a coach and a mentor, this is really powerful, and not always easy to get, but is really powerful. So it's a great thing. So a coach is always active in your life. A real coach in your life is active. They're proactive. They're regular. They're engaged. They should have an interest in you winning. So if you think about a gym trainer as being a coach, you know, they don't just meet you for, you know, a banana split after you've had a training session, you know, once a month. They're with you in the training session. They're watching what you're doing. They're going, no, hang on a second. No, do the weights this way. Or no, I want you to do this. Okay, that needs to be faster. We're going to add more weight. They're in the action at the same time as you. Okay, they're actually actively looking at it. So, and they have an interest in you winning. Normally with someone like a gym trainer, it's because they're getting paid. But sometimes you might have a gym buddy, right? And you coach them, they coach you. Does that make sense? And you're both interested in helping each other somewhere along the line. So a key role to all of this lot is coaching doesn't work if you're not teachable. So we have to be humble. We have to be teachable. We never know it all, right? I learned this from Gary. He taught me lots in those early days when we started working together. And you've got to be teachable, and you've got to learn. I think, Gary, you still say that all the time. You've got to be teachable. You've got to learn. And we've got to submit ourselves to other people. And we've got to go, okay, what can I get? And even if you go, yeah, I know that. The moment you go in your head, I know that, your ears close straight away. You know, so you've got to go, yep, I've heard that before. Let me relearn it, right? Or, yeah, that's a good point. I know that thing. Let me reinforce that. Am I doing that? How do I do that? How do I take that to the next level? So always be teachable, always be open to learn, always focus on what you can get more. So 3 things that coaches do, right? And if you're going to coach somebody or somebody's going to coach you, these are the 3 things that they need to do. Otherwise, they're not coaching you. The first thing is they need to observe what you're doing, right? Again, so that means they have to be in the game with you. They've got to be able to give you feedback. They've got to be able to evaluate. So again, you know, Tiger Woods, he's got a coach. So the coach is not better than him. Otherwise, he'd be in the finals, or he'd be doing that, right? But the coach has the ability to see what he's doing and go, yeah, you need to change your grip, or you need to do that, or you know, they're there to help you because they understand the situation, but they are in the game with you. The coach, Tiger Woods' coach, is not sitting, or Pete Sampras' coach or whatever, they're not sitting somewhere else. They're in the game with them, and they're talking to them, and they're talking to them, talking to. So in business, you have to have a coach who can observe what you're doing. That can be quite a challenge. You know, they need to sit in, you know, I need coaching on how to do presentations. You have to invite them to some presentations you're doing. How am I managing my staff? Invite them to watch that. How are we communicating? What are we doing? They need to come in. They need to see what's happening in your environment. They have to be able to observe, to be able to evaluate, to be able to give you feedback, right? So the second thing they need to be able to do is instruct. Based on the observations, they must be able to instruct you as to, this is how you get to the next level. This is how you go further. They must be able to teach you. And you have to be able to, they have to be able to face the truth head on, right? You have to give them permission to speak into your life and to say the things that you may not want to hear. Does that make sense? Because, you know, typically when there's something we think we've got right and we haven't really, you want them to take us that little bit further, right? You're going to want to excel on the things that you are really good at. And by the way, this is not just, the coach doesn't just criticize. This is not just like, hey, you didn't do this right, you didn't do this right, you didn't do this right, because that relationship's not going to last particularly long. But the third thing they need to do is inspire. So the coach needs to observe and then instruct, face the truth head on, be absolutely clear about everything, but at the same time, inspire you to get to that next level, to get to that higher level. And I think probably one of the most important things a coach needs to do is inspire you to have your vision as to where you could go. You need to be able to get that mental picture. You need to be able to get the belief in you that you can get there, or you can take your company there, or you can do whatever you need to do in whatever the situation is. They've got to create that belief. They've got to create faith, actually, in what you're doing as to how you can get there, right? So they need to observe, they need to instruct, they need to inspire. So your coach really is there to close your gap between where you are today and where your full potential is, right? Because there's always a gap. And you'll know that as well as I do. And they're there to go, okay, how do we do that? How do we get there? And just remember that some of that's going to be painful, because it's going to be comfort zone stuff that we're challenging. It's going to be paradigms that we maybe need to shift. But certainly to get from one level to the next level always requires some level of pain. If you're going to, again, going back to gym, which is an easy thing, the first time you go, it's painful to go. It's actually painful to go even on the 100th time for me, but you guys may be better than that. So again, we always have to be teachable. So how do we find coaches and how do we bring them into our life? Because a coach, I mean, we're talking about business here, but how about a marriage coach? How about a relationship coach? How about a parenting coach, right? Vic, a lot of the stuff that you're doing is coaching, actually, in one form or another. How about you see business coach? How about a wealth coach? How about a spiritual coach? So all these different things that your different areas of life that you've got, you need to have coaches. And you go, yeah, well, that's ridiculous, because most of us think about a coach as somebody we're going to pay and they're going to come in. So let's hit that one. So that's the first type of coach. And most common in businesses or in sports or something like that, you go and find a coach who is somebody who can train you and take you to the next level. So there are, and depending on what you're looking at in life, and of course that's really key, but I find a lot of the stock standard coaching programs of some value, but not great. Some of them are like, okay, they'll take you through a thing, and there's sort of transformational coaches, and there's transactional coaches. The transactional coach will help you go a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. A transformational coach will help you go through a change in life, where there's a major difference happening in life, right? So many times in business, it's just a transactional coach. How do we just get a little bit better, get a little bit better, get a little bit better? So obviously you can pay somebody when you do interview them, right? It's not just the money you're going to pay them. And by the way, the money you pay somebody is a fraction of the money that they're going to make you. It is a fraction of the money that they're going to make you. Because you're going to go so much further faster than if you could have done it by yourself. Because when you're doing it by yourself, you're just learning, and you typically learn when things go wrong. We learn very little when things are right. Okay, because we go, oh, that was right, we can do that, and you just keep going. It's only really when you lose something doesn't work, and then you go, oh, why? How did that happen? Why did it happen? How do we not do that again? That was painful. And so most of life is going to be, thanks, Chase, I see your question. A lot of life is going to be going, okay, how do we get there quicker without having to go through those things ourselves? So Chase, a quick question popped up. How do you know a good coach from a bad coach? So I'm going to be covering that over the next few points. But when you're paying for a coach, talk to some of their past coachees, right? People that they've coached. Go and talk to them, right? And see if they're the same sort of level as you, right? If maybe you're a senior executive or something like that, and this person's just coached a couple of small guys or something, maybe that's not the right coach for you. Or if maybe this is somebody who does executive coaching with listed companies with 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees, and you're running a sort of a 3-man business, it's probably the wrong coach for you. Okay, so first of all, you've got to look at who they are, what they're doing, what their past track record is. Education is a difficult one because there are literally thousands of coaching certifications, and there's a couple of associations, but it's not like, becoming a doctor or something where there's a formal qualification. There are qualifications, and there are many of them, but there's a lot of the different training programs. Some of the training programs just teach them some really basic stuff, and how to ask questions. So I like a coach, because ideally a coach in most people's definitions of somebody who just sits there and they ask questions, they ask questions, they ask questions, they ask questions, and they go, yeah, we're not allowed to tell you the answer. You've got to discover that for yourself. We're there to guide you to find the right answer because it's within you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I would sure like somebody who knows, yeah, I've been there, done that, to just go, yeah, I've been there and done that, and this is what I did. Let's just see if that's suitable for you, right? So it's not the teaching thing, because that would just be a mentoring, but there's a coaching is a blend for me. A good coach is a blend between teaching and things. So and asking questions. I try to find in my life, it's very, very hard to do this even on a paid basis. I try to find somebody who's sort of had experience in what I'm doing and knows how it works, as opposed to just asking questions. Again, go back to the sporting analogy. Tiger Woods' coach is not better than him, right? But he knows how to make Tiger better because he knows the game. He knows the techniques. He studied it. He understands it. He's a domain expert in that area, even though he's not actually better than Tiger, right? Does that make sense? So those are some of the things that I would look for, and I'd run the references. It's just like anything. You're buying a service. You know, how would you buy any service? You know, go there and do it. Don't just go with the first person. You know, and if they've got a program, go, okay, run me through the program. Let's have a look at it. What is the program? You know, what have you done in your life? How have you done things, right? What has happened in your life? And if the person is like, well, I used to do this, and then I did that, then I did that, and, you know, well, I can't really find a job at the moment, so I'll become a life coach. Maybe they're not the life coach that you need to have, right? If that makes sense. Okay, so that's a paid side. Next one, which is this is the easiest way of getting a coach, and there are literally thousands of them, is look at books. Dean, you were just talking about the book that you just read now. Go and read a book, get an ebook, you know, listen to the book, get an audio book, right? Get a podcast. There's tons of them. Go onto webinars. You go, yeah, well, that's not coaching. Yeah, it is coaching. They're instructing you, they're teaching you. They're not observing you, but you know where you are, and you can apply those things back to, yeah, I see the question, Vic, thanks. You can apply that teaching back into your life, and it's the quickest way. You can literally, every time you get in the traffic, you can have the world's best, I don't know, marketer on next to you, pumping you all the time, right? You can have somebody literally talking to you all the time when you're cooking, when you're exercising, when you're doing anything. Great saying, you know, leaders are readers or leaders are learners. And that's true. You should be doing that all the time, and you can use that as a coach. There was a question there from Vic, just sort of saying, sorry, Vic, the question was, paid coach, they have to be certified. No, not necessarily. I know a couple of really great coaches who aren't certified, but obviously if they've had some sort of certification, it means that they've had some sort of formalized training, right, in coaching. And certainly if I'm going to have a coach who is sort of under the age of sort of 35 or something like that, I would probably want to see some sort of certification. However, if I found somebody who's been running business for sort of 20, 30 years, and they've been a successful entrepreneur and so on, they say they're going to coach me, I wouldn't really care too much about their certification. Maybe it's more of a mentorship role, but, you know, after that many years, you know, they've actually coached staff. They've coached partners, they've coached managers, right? And typically, if they're wanting to get into coaching, they're probably the type of person who wants to give back. And so they've been doing that type of teaching anyway. So I think I would, again, you need to look at each person and what they're doing and how they've been doing it, and what their past history is. Yeah, so you don't have to. Well, do you have to be certified to call yourself a coach, Vic? Yeah, I don't think you do. I think there are a huge number of people who call themselves coaches who aren't, and I met a bunch of people who are certified coaches who are just horrendous. So unfortunately, you know, you can literally do a sort of a 6-week course and become a certified coach, right? So it's, and on the other hand, you can do a 3-year course and become a coach. And, you know, some of the coaching federations, the IFC, and in England, the EA executive or EC executive coaches, something, they have sort of points. So you have to have so many hours of coaching and so many hours of training and so many hours of coaching, and then you become a normal coach and a master coach and whatever. And those certainly help. And that would be a guideline for you to find that. But again, you've got to find somebody who you can get on with, who you're going to connect with. That's really important from a coach perspective. You don't like a coach, they don't like you, probably isn't going to work very well. Okay, so first thing, paid coach. Second one, start with books and podcasts and webinars and so on like that. That's an easy one. The next one is environment, and that's also sort of an easy-ish one, much like reading a book or listening to an audio book or something like that. But create the environment and things around you that where you will be coached by others anyway. Does that make sense? The next level, the group that we've got, to be honest with you, I was talking to Vanessa about this the other day. I was saying it's sort of one of the highlights of my week because I get to hear you guys, right? Because I get to see what's going on in your life. I mean, and that hey, what's working for you? What isn't working for you? What can I learn? And those things, they help me. And then we get feedback. The sessions where one of you guys comes and you talk about what you're doing in your business and everybody goes, hey, listen, have you tried this? Have you tried? That's coaching, right? But it's coaching from an environment. So what environments are you in? Maybe you're in a church environment. Maybe you're in a CrossFit environment. Maybe you have a trainer, but maybe you're being trained by, your iron sharpens iron around you, and you're getting that from your peers. So the key thing is when you don't, there's a great saying by Jim Rohn. You all know Jim Rohn, and he said, to have more, you must first become more. Right? To have more, you must first become more. So the coach is what helps you become more. They are they're there to sort of blow your lid off. John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid in the I think it's the 17 laws of teamwork or the 21 laws of leadership. I can't remember which one. But the law of the lid, your organization can't go further than you. So if you're not improving, your organization can't improve. So as leaders, we have to improve all the time. So we need to put ourselves in the environment. We need to either deliberately bring people in. We need to be asking questions of ourselves. As I said earlier, who is leading you? And you need to learn from everybody and anything around you. You've got to be teachable. If I didn't mention that earlier, you've got to be teachable, right? And we've got to be able to take that in. So just your environment. Then the third thing is finding coaches that you're not going to pay. So this is great. The best example I have that is Greg Buerter, one of the Next Level members, and he does it and he's done it for years. And he let the cat out of the bag a couple of years ago. He says, I've got a bunch of coaches, and he says, what I do is I go, hey, let's have lunch. It's almost like a mentorship type of role. I get that, but he goes in there and then he grills you over lunch. And I've had a few lunches with Greg where Greg just asks questions. And what do you think about this? And how does this work? And what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And what are you doing here? And basically he's getting coaching for free, which is fine. Okay. Because the people who will do that are people who want to give back anyway. Right. And that's fine. And there's lots of people. Most successful people will want to give back. And so look for successful people. So firstly, if you are going to look for a successful person who you want to bring in as your coach, remember they're going to observe you, they're going to instruct you, and they're going to inspire you. They're going to observe, instruct, inspire. The first thing is don't approach them and go, will you coach me? Because two things are going to go in their head. Firstly, they're going to go, I'm not qualified, right? They're going to go, I'm not a qualified coach. I haven't been on a coaching course. All I've done is run this company for 20 years, right? So I'm not qualified. And secondly, they're going to go, well, I've got to think of a whole coaching program, and they're going to go tilt, and they're going to go, no, I don't think I can do that. Right? I'm not qualified. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I've got the time. Maybe we can just have a chat. Okay, so when you're first trying to engage with somebody that you think could be a coach, don't ask them. Ask them for their opinion. Can I get your advice on this? Look, you know what? I'm battling with my sales presentations, and you're really good at that. Could you come with me to one of my sales presentations and just give me some feedback? Just sit in, listen to what we're doing, and then give me some feedback on that. Be specific. Be specific around a small particular item that you could ask them to come in and look at what you're doing. Hey, listen, I've done a piece of copyright. Could I get your opinion on this piece of copyright? You're a great copywriter, and I'd really like your opinion on it. Then if if it works for both of you, because it's got to be a two-way relationship. If they go, I really enjoy doing that and I love giving you feedback, and you receive the feedback and you go, gee, I'm going to apply that. That's really helpful for me, and all the rest of it. If you find that they are good with that process of evaluation, teaching, and then inspiring, if they're good with that and they take you through that, you may just have a coaching relationship starting. Okay? Does this sound better than just going and employing somebody, right? The employment route is the easy one because you can just look in the directory and start looking for coaches and sift through them until you get somebody. But this way, you can actually end up with an ecosystem, an environment of coaches who maybe coach you just around a particular thing in your life that you need to be better at, right? Maybe you need to be better at, I don't know, communicating with your staff. Then go and find somebody who's really good at communication, or who's done that with their staff for many years, and go, just listen to what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing in the moment. This is the emails I'm doing, or this is my, Ralph is really good at this. He pops out a thing every single week out to the staff, which I get the privilege of listening to. And it's really great because he makes the staff very inclusive. He gets better at it every week. So this is really good. So get someone like that and go, this is what I'm doing over here. This is how I'm happening. Chase, I know we talked at one stage, you talking about talking to another restaurateur who's done stuff before. Instead of saying, come and teach me how to do restaurateur, maybe you want to go, listen, we're doing this. Come and have a look at my menu and tell me if you think the menu is good. Just ask for about one thing, or look at how we're pricing our food, or, just do something where somebody is prepared to give back and give you good advice. And then maybe if that works, then you're going to develop a coaching relationship, which might go further than just that thing. Does that make sense, guys? Yep. So, and then the last thing I want to do is, who are you coaching? Okay. Who are you giving back to? It's more blessed to give than receive. When you coach other people, thanks, Jeff. I see that question. When you coach other people, you will attract coaches back into your life, right? When you're giving and you're doing things, other people will look at you and go, look at him doing that. And then when you ask for something, they'll go, yeah, I'll give to him because I see he gives to other people. Because giving people like other giving people, right? They will work with people who are giving. So you're never too young to start coaching. I often talk to young entrepreneurs, and the guys are in there like 19, 20, 21. And they go, I'm too young to be a coach. And I go, are you kidding me? Do you know how to survive school? And they go, sure. I finished. And they go, okay, you can coach them. So there's always somebody you can coach. There's always something that you've been through that you can coach. I went through the loss of a wife through death. I can coach people now through that situation, which I couldn't do before. But don't ask me to try and coach you around divorce, because I've never been there. I haven't done that, right? So I can't do that. I can't teach you I can't coach you on how to be a farmer, because I've never done farming, right? But I could coach you on how to run a software company, right? So you, at any point in time, you can find something in your life that you've been successful in that you can help coach other people, because you can teach them and you can see what they're doing right, and you can see what they're doing wrong. Does that make sense? We've got I don't want to be specific, but I mean, right now I'm dealing with a couple of people in our life who are going through some difficult times that we've been through, and we can see it. There's that old story about the person who falls in the pit, falls in a hole, and people walk past and give him advice. You could do this. Why don't you try climbing? You should get a ladder. Thanks. That would really help. Can you get me a ladder? And then eventually, his mate walks along and he says, can we help him? And the mate jumps into the pit with him, and he goes, now this is crazy, because now there's two of us in the pit. And the friend says, yeah, but I've been in this pit before and I know how to get out. Right? What do you know how to get out of? What have you gotten out of? Who are you coaching around that? Go and find somebody. Go and find somebody who's in the same situation. Make yourself available and help teach them. A couple of last notes I've got here. You learn more when you teach, right? The more you teach somebody on something, the more you learn it, because you've got to actually understand that thing. And as you apply it to other people, then you start applying it to yourself. So first of all, if there's an area where you need improvement on, Go and coach somebody who's not at your level, and you will find you will improve in that area. I know that sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true, because you will go learn about it. And as you look at somebody else of where they're going wrong, you will actually be looking in a mirror of yourself and going, yeah, I need to do that too, right? When you start coaching somebody, focus on what they're doing right more than what they're doing wrong, until you've earned the trust to be able to talk about what they're doing wrong. Right? It's a different thing. When you invite a coach into your life to coach you, they need to be able to face the truth head on, and they just need to be able to tell you as it is, right? And you have to say, I trust you and I'm teachable. Okay. But when you're going to coach somebody else, if they haven't asked you, but you want to just start coaching them because you want to help them and so on like that, focus on what they're doing right, so that you can build the trust, so that they will ask you, okay, what am I doing wrong? Right? You know, where you know, make it a little bit tougher for me. Where am I actually sitting here? And then when you're talking to people on a coaching front, be a fellow learner all the time. Instead of going, do this, do that, you go, well, it's very interesting. I see this going on, but I found in my life when that happened, tell a story, right? Well, I found that perhaps if we did this, you know, may I make a suggestion? What if we did this, right? So when you're coaching people, you talk about what's happened in your life, or talk about experiences where you've seen other people be successful or not be successful, so that they can help them there. So really, that coaching is always a key thing, is the fact that you can ask questions and that they can self-reflect on where they are. But I would encourage you to not just do that, but to actually help mentor people at the same time with some experience. And so for me, the ideal coach is a blend of that. Jeff, you asked a question about chemistry. Is it important? Yeah, it really is important. It really is important. I found in my life, I've had people coach me in different ways. And you know, if you don't really get on with a coach, you don't. When I was young, 13, I loved playing piano. And I changed schools and I changed piano teachers. And I had this piano teacher, I just didn't get on with her at all. And within 6 months, I'd given up the piano and I never played again. And I went and I learned drums, and then I learned guitar instead. But I didn't like the teacher, right? So, and if you like, she was a coach. We call her a teacher in those days. But if you don't get on with it, you're not going to look forward to the meeting. You're not going to connect with them. So absolutely, you need to have chemistry. And again, if you're going to employ a coach and you're going to pay for somebody, you need to interview them, right? Tell them, okay, so let's do, give me a half an hour session. Give me a 15-minute coaching session. Let's see how you work, right? And if I like you, I'll engage you. If I don't like you, I won't, right? Because you're going to spend a huge amount of time and effort and energy with a paid coach. Oh, and by the way, paid coaches don't have to last with you for years. A lot of the coaching that I've done with people has been around, I do more transformational than transactional coaching. So just to try and get somebody from here to there. And so often that's an engagement. That it's like, okay, how do we do that? How do we solve the problem? What are the learnings? Let's put this in place and then get going. The other thing is with coaching, you also need to have the time to apply the things that you have learned, right? Somebody's going to come, and that's why with Next Level, you know, we always used to go, okay, I'll talk about pricing, Gary, thank you. With Next Level, you need to go, we say, okay, what are you doing and what are you going to commit to coming back with next month? Because you've got to have enough time to actually make things work. Pricing, Gary, is all over the place. If we're talking about business coaching, a good business coach is I'd say under 1,500 Rand an hour. You're probably not getting a good business coach. I've seen business coaches at 3,000, 5,000 Rand an hour, right? I've seen business coaches at 20,000 Rand an hour, right? I've paid somebody well in excess of 20,000 Rand an hour for a limited time period to help me get through a couple of really key things. And you go, wow, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but if you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, what is the cost of not doing that? What is the cost of the mistakes, right? I had one guy, I didn't like him very much, and went on a 2-day coaching thing with him and a bunch of other people. And one of the questions he asked the group is, what was your most expensive mistake that you ever made? And some guys were like, 20,000, a few 100,000 rand, and X, Y, and Z. And I said, well, my most expensive mistake was a few million. And that was bringing on the wrong partner at the wrong time and doing the wrong thing because of that. And if we'd been coached through that, we wouldn't have done that. Now, did it cost a few million? Well, it did physically, but it also cost in not doing things that we should have done. Does that make sense? A coach can take you, and if they can solve a problem in a month or 2 months or 3 months, or prevent you from going down a path which might take you a year or 2 years out of your way to get back to where you need to be, what is that worth? What is it worth? And you have to work that out. The problem is, and the problem is there are so many coaches out there because, it's such an easy thing to get into, and I can't do anything else. I'll just become a coach, and particularly I'll become a life coach or something like that. My life is a mess, but I'll coach you. It's okay. And I've done some sort of course. And that's why I say I'm not negative towards the coaching profession. There are some brilliant coaches out there, but there's also a lot of rubbish. People who just call themselves a coach, and this is what they do, and they've read the books, and they know how to market, and they know how to put up the site, and they've got a good sales pattern and all the rest of it, and they've done a thing, or they're part of some coaching program, and it'll take you through the basics. And if you're at the sort of area where you're doing the basics, then that's fine, but then you're not going to be paying much for it. Maybe you're paying 600 Rand an hour or something. Right? And you go through some of the early basics of what coaching is. But if you really want to make a change in your life, you need to identify what you need to make a change on, and then get coaching on that. Or if you're not sure, you just feel a bit stuck, and you're going, how do I get to the next level? How do I, I just feel like I'm going round and round in circles. Then you need somebody to come in and look at what you're doing, and then help you get to that next level. Because sometimes, and this happens all the time, actually, particularly with people who've been around 10, 20 years in business, and they're starting to do the same thing over and over again, is you can't see yourself when you're in your own fog. Right? I had a coach in Canada, still work with him every now and then, and he always used to say, you cannot see where you are when you're in your own fog. You can't see the wood for the trees. Somebody else will come in, and they'll go, well, there's this, and this. And you'll go, oh, yeah, I suppose there's a good point. And that's actually where you are. Then you need somebody to unlock it. So sometimes you need somebody to help you see what the problem is. And that's typically a transformational coach. And then often you need a transactional coach to go, okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Let's put this in place. Okay, let's put this in place. Let's put this in place. Does that answer your question? Any other question, guys? I can see the time. If you want to stick yourself off mute and ask any questions, or if not, we'll stop the recording. Yep. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.